Hey guys, tonight you're not just in medieval times. You're something much worse. You're the one swinging the axe, the one holding the rope. Congratulations. You've just woken up as the medieval executioner. And no, you can't quit. It's cold. It's damp. Your bed is a pile of straw in the corner of a tiny wooden shack, and your back already feels broken. There's no mattress, no comfort, just the constant smell of mildew, smoke, and something metallic. You open your eyes and remember, it's market day, which means it's also execution day. The good news? You're alive. The bad news? So are your memories of last week's hanging, the screams still bouncing around in your head. Your hands shake as you reach for your worn-out boots, still stained from something you'd rather not name. You stretch and regret it instantly. Your bones crack like dry sticks. You're in your early 30s, but here, that's considered old. Your joints creak, your teeth ache, and your skin carries the permanent scent of death. You shuffle to the door, pulling on your thick, tattered cloak. Outside, the village is already awake. Smoke curling from chimneys, animals bleating, and somewhere in the distance, church bells start their ominous toll. This is your life. Every week, another sentence, another body. You're not a noble, you're not a knight. You're a man with a job nobody wants, feared by every including yourself. Your breakfast? Stale bread so hard you could use it as a weapon, and a thin broth that smells like someone boiled moss. No one eats well here, even the mayor who pays your meager wage sheets better than you. But today, you have work to do. A thief caught red-handed. The sentence? Public hanging. The town square will fill with faces, some curious, some terrified, some gleeful. For them, it's entertainment. For you, it's another weight on your soul. You trudge through mud-soaked streets, your boots sinking into filth. Villagers avoid your eyes. Mothers pull children close. Even the dogs give you a wide berth. You can't blame them. You wouldn't want to look at yourself either. You didn't choose this life. Some say executioners were born into it. The role passed from father to son like a curse. Others say criminals became executioners to escape worse punishments. Historians still argue whether these men were respected professionals or necessary evils. Your house sits on the edge of the village because no one wants to live near the executioner. Superstitions run deep. People whisper that shaking your hand could bring misfortune, that sharing bread with you invites death to their doorstep. So you eat alone, always. The tools of your trade hang silently on the wall, an axe sharpened to brutal perfection, lengths of rope neatly coiled, rusty chains, and your least favorite knives for more complicated tasks. Each one tells a story you wish you could forget. The gallows loom in the center of town, wooden, splintered, stained. You've built and repaired them so many times you could do it blindfolded. The execution block nearby bears deep grooves from countless heads and countless blades. As you set up, you hear whispers. The villagers gather in tight clumps, eyes darting toward you, their faces a mix of fear and fascination. Some mutter prayers, some cross themselves, some just stare, as if trying to convince themselves that it's not real. It's always the same. You call the name, you read the sentence, you pull the lever or swing the blade. The crowd gasps. Sometimes they cheer, sometimes they weep, and then they leave. They forget. You don't. You try not to meet the eyes of the condemned, but sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes they beg, sometimes they spit. Once, a woman smiled. You still see her when you close your eyes. Afterward, you return home, hands trembling, breath shallow. The smell of blood clings no matter how hard you scrub. There's no one waiting for you. There's no comfort, just cold silence. You sit by the fire, nibble dry bread, and sip thin beer because the water will kill you faster than the job. You stare into the flames, haunted by faces you can't forget. And you know tomorrow, or next week, it will happen again. You are the executioner, and there's no escape. You wake before dawn. The village still sleeps, but you're already lacing up your battered boots, your fingers numb from cold and something deeper, something hollow. Today isn't just any day. Today is a beheading. And in medieval Europe, that means the whole town will be watching. Again, you're not nervous. Not exactly. This isn't your first. But no matter how many times you do it, your hands never quite stop shaking. The axe lies by the door, its blade freshly honed. You sharpen it yourself, as always. Not out of pride, but out of necessity. A clean cut is kinder. At least, that's what you tell yourself. As you step outside, a sharp wind slices through your thin cloak. The streets are quiet except for the distant clatter of hooves and the occasional bark of a stray dog. The air smells like wood smoke, wet earth, and something sour that lingers no matter the season. The executioner's path is a lonely one. Villagers cross themselves when you pass. Some look away. Some pretend not to see you at all. You are a walking curse, a living shadow of death. But you still nod politely, out of habit, because despite everything, you are still human. Arriving at the square, you find the scaffold half frozen in the morning chill. The block is stained dark from years of use. The ropes creak softly in the wind. Everything is too familiar. The condemned is brought forward, a man in his 40s, accused of treason. His face is pale, but he walks steadily. No begging, no tears. Yet, you give him the courtesy of a brief nod, the last kindness you can offer. Historians still argue whether executioners like you were reviled or respected. Some sources say executioners were paid well, even granted special privileges. Others insist they lived as outcasts, unable to marry, forced to reside outside city walls. The truth, like most things in the Middle Ages, is probably somewhere in between. The villagers begin to gather, children perched on shoulders, old women muttering prayers. Some faces are eager, others grim. For them, it's spectacle. For you, it's survival. The tools are simple, the axe double-headed, heavy, unforgiving. The block worn, polished by centuries of terror. You check the bindings, inspect the blade, it must be perfect. Anything less is cruelty. The sentence is read aloud by the town crier. You barely listen anymore. The condemned kneels, head bowed. A murmur ripples through the crowd. You raise the axe. The weight is familiar. The angle is instinct. And then silence. The crowd holds its breath. The blade falls. And the world exhales. You feel it in your arms, in your bones. That sickening jolt that never leaves. You wipe the blade clean as the body is removed. Faces in the crowd shift. Some satisfied, some horrified, some indifferent. You don't look for too long. You've learned not to. Returning home, your hands still tremble slightly. The blood, no matter how well you wash, seems to linger in your skin. The smell clings to your hair, your clothes, your memory. Your meal is the same as always. Hard bread, thin stew, weak ale. A peasant's feast for a man who takes noblemen's lives. You sit by the fire, staring into the glow, wondering briefly what it would feel like to be the one kneeling instead of the one swinging. No one visits you. No one thanks you. But they all need you. When justice calls, when punishment must be delivered, they all turn to you, the executioner. And when it's over, they pretend not to know your name. Outside, the wind howls. Somewhere, another crime is being committed. Another sentence will be passed. And deep down, you know, this job never ends. You wake before sunrise, the sky still bruised with night. You're not just tired, you're exhausted in a way that seeps into your bones. The kind of tired that sleep can't fix. The kind of tired that comes from the knowledge that today you'll have to kill again. Your breath clouds the cold air as you sit on the edge of your creaky straw bed. The familiar weight settles on your chest. The same weight that has followed you every day since you first lifted the axe. Since you first looked into someone's eyes and knew you were about to end their story forever. You pull on your rough woolen tunic, your cracked leather boots. Each movement is heavy, automatic. The wooden walls of your small hut groan as the wind batters the village outside. Another storm is coming, or maybe it's always coming. You can't tell the difference anymore. Your breakfast is the same grim affair as yesterday. A chunk of stone-like bread, boiled turnip stew, and weak ale. The bread tastes like wood shavings. The ale tastes like regret. You chew slowly, your eyes unfocused, your mind elsewhere. You're not really here, not yet. You think about the man you executed yesterday, his face, his final words. You always tell yourself you won't remember, but you do. Every single one of them. Their eyes haunt your dreams. Their voices echo when you're alone. Sometimes you even hear them when you're not. Outside, the villagers are already stirring. Smoke rises from chimneys. The market stalls creak as merchants set up for the day. But they avoid your gaze, always. Even when they need you, they cannot meet your eyes. You are the hand of the law, but also its shadow. You trudge toward the gallows, boots squelching through mud, the cold air biting your fingertips. The scaffold looms ahead like a skeletal monster wooden beams darkened with bloodstains old and new. You helped build it. You've repaired it more times than you can count. You know every nail, every crack. Today is a burning. The sentence was passed down yesterday by the Lord Steward. Accused of heresy, the condemned will die by fire. It's one of the worst fates in your profession, but it's not your choice. You're just the one who lights the torch. Historians still argue whether medieval punishments were truly as barbaric as the stories suggest. Some claim many executions were staged more for fear than for fact. Others insist that public cruelty was very real, very deliberately warning carved into the flesh of society itself. The truth? You've seen it. And it's worse than any book can describe. The townsfolk gather slowly, drawn by grim curiosity. Children cling to their mothers. Old men shake their heads solemnly. Some faces show horror. Others barely concealed excitement. You see it all. You always do. The condemned is led in chains, stumbling, barely conscious. The priest mutters prayers. The guards fasten ropes around trembling limbs. You try once again not to look into their eyes, but you fail. Every time, you fail. The wood is stacked high. Dry hay crinkles underfoot. The wind whips the smoke into your face as you strike the first flame. It catches quickly. The crackle of fire fills the air. You turn your head away. The crowd gasps. Some cross themselves. Some weep. You stand motionless, expressionless, the silent witness to yet another end. And when it's over, when the ashes cool and the villagers drift back to their daily lives, you remain. You always remain. Cleaning the tools, tending the scaffold, preparing for the next. Later, back in your hut, you wash your hands until your skin burns. The scent of smoke and death lingers. It always lingers. No matter how hard you scrub, it's in your hair, your clothes, your very pores. You sit by the dying embers of the fire, weak ale warming your fingertips. Alone. Always alone. Your mind drifts to the stories you've heard, that executioners in far-off lands are paid gold, that some even live in luxury, that they retire with honor. Yuzma bitale. Here, you're just another tool, no better than the rope or the axe. And as you close your eyes, you know, there will always be another dawn. Another sentence, another name, and you will always be the one left to carry it. You wake to the sound of distant bells. At first, in that fragile moment between sleep and waking, you almost forget who you are. For just a breath, you're not the executioner. You're not the man who ends lives for coin. You're just someone. But then the weight settles on your chest again. Heavy, inevitable. The morning is bitter. Your breath clouds the air as you sit up, spine cracking like dry twigs. The straw beneath you is damp from the endless winter chill. The blanket, if you can call it that, is threadbare, scratchy, and stiff with grime. You shiver, pulling on your rough-spun tunic, the same one you wore yesterday and the day before. The world outside is gray and unforgiving. Frozen mud crunches underfoot as you step outside your crooked wooden hut. The wind carries the sharp bite of smoke, manure, and something else, something coppery and thick. The scent of old blood. Or maybe it's just your imagination. You can't tell anymore. Today is different. Not a hanging, not a burning. Today is a quartering. You swallow hard, the taste of bile rising. You've only done this twice before. Both times haunt you still. No matter how many times you steady your hands, how many times you force your breath slow, and even, there are things you can't erase. Some sentences are too cruel, even for you. The town is unusually quiet as you make your way toward the square. Faces appear in windows, peeking through shutters, but no one dares greet you. Even the beggars fall silent as you pass. The snow crunches beneath your boots, each step echoing in the cold air. The gallows and scaffold loom ahead, but beside them stands a new horror. The wheel. Historians still debate whether executions like this were as common as the records suggest. Some argue they were rare, used only in extreme cases. Others believe they were brutally frequent design, not just to punish, but to terrify. You've seen enough to believe the latter. The condemned is already waiting limp, pale, barely able to stand. His crime? Murder of a noble son. Or so they say. You've learned not to ask too many questions. The law doesn't care for details. The law demands blood. The crowd is larger today. Word spreads fast when something gruesome is promised. Families, traders, even children huddle together, breath misting in the icy air. Some faces show curiosity. Others barely hide disgust. You've seen it all before. The priest mumbles prayers. The guards bind the man to the wheel arm splayed, legs stretched. The sentence is read. The words barely register. You're focused on your hands, your breathing. The iron bar in your grip? The first strike is always the hardest. Bones snap like dry branches. The man screams. The crowd recoils. Somewhere, a child cries. Somewhere else, someone laughs. You don't look up. You can't. The task takes longer than you want. Each blow lands heavy. Each crack of bone echoes in your skull. You feel every snap deep in your marrow. By the time it's over, your arms ache, your breath is ragged, and the square smells of sweat, blood, and cold iron. The body is left on display. A warning. You return home alone. Your hands tremble as you strip off your blood-stained clothes. You scrub until your fingers are raw, but the stains real or imagined won't come clean. The cold beer you sip tastes sour. The bread is too hard to chew. You barely taste the pottage. You chew out of habit, not hunger. Night falls early, the wind howls, the fire burns low. You sit, staring into the embers, your mind heavy with ghosts. You remember the faces. Always the faces. The woman who whispered, "Thank you," before the axe fell. The boy who screamed for his mother. The man who laughed as the flames took him. They visit you in the quiet, in the spaces between the world. They sit beside you as you sleep. They linger in every shadow. You wonder if other executioners feel this way. You've heard stories. In some cities, the headsmen are honored. Paid well, respected, even protected. In others, they are pariahs, cursed to live outside the walls, their families shunned. Historians still argue which is true. You suspect both are. Your hands shake as you pour another cup of ale. The candle sputters. The wind rattles the shutters. You think about running, about slipping into the night, vanishing into the forests. You could be free. You could start over. But where would you go? Who would welcome the executioner? No one. The world outside your door is as cruel as the one within. And so, when the knock comes soft, politely, you already know what it means. Another sentence, another name. You close your eyes, breathe deep, and open the door. The wind outside your small wooden hut moans like a wounded animal. The cold is absolute. You pull your thin, scratchy blanket tighter, but it's useless. Even the flicker of the fire does little to warm the air, let alone the hollow ache in your bones. Sleep is impossible. Your mind replays the scene over and over, the cracking of bones, the shrieks, the smell of burning flesh clinging to your skin. And no matter how many times you close your eyes, You can still see his face. You don't know his name. You never asked. You never ask. You learn that early. Names stay. Names rot in your memory like old fruit. It's easier if they remain faceless. Just another task. Another sentence carried out in the name of the law. At least, that's what you tell yourself. The candle sputters. You trace the wood grain of the table absent-mindedly, fingertips catching in old grooves carved by nervous hands over endless, sleepless nights. The wheel is still out there, empty now, blood-soaked, but tomorrow they'll use it again. They always do. Your hands still tremble. The bruises on your palms from gripping the iron bar have started to darken, but the ache in your joints lingers. You sip from the weak ale, but it tastes like ash. Everything tastes like ash now. The townsfolk have long since gone home. They return to their lives, their trades, their families. But you don't have that luxury. Even in a crowd, you are alone. A necessary evil, they call you. But the necessary part rarely matters. People only see the axe, the rope, the wheel. Historians still debate whether executioners were truly shunned as much as the stories suggest. Some records claim they were wealthy, even respected in certain cities. Others say they lived isolated on the edge of town, forbidden to marry, forbidden to eat in public taverns. You suspect the truth is somewhere in between. You're paid, you're feared, but respect? That's a currency you've never known. You remember the first time, the first execution. Your hands shook so badly you could barely lift the sword. The man's eyes, gods, you still see them calm, almost pitying, as if he knew what this would do to you, as if he forgave you in that final breath. You retched for hours afterward, couldn't sleep for days, but you learned you had to. The alternative was worse. In a world where bread is scarce and coin scarcer, no one walks away from work. Even work like this. The town bell tolls. It's not dawn yet, but you rise anyway. Muscle memory, routine. You wash your face in cold water, shivering as icy drops trickle down your neck. The tools must be prepared, the axe sharpened, the rope checked for fray. You work with quiet focus. The ritual of preparation is oddly soothing. Another knock, another scroll, another name. This time, a woman, accused of witchcraft. The word alone chills you deeper than the winter air. Witch, heretic, sorcerer. The labels are all the same. Convenient fictions wrapped around inconvenient people. You've seen enough to know the truth. Most of them are harmless. Healers, midwives. Unlucky souls caught in a feud or betrayed by a whispered lie. But none of that matters. The charge is enough. The square fills slowly, faces half hidden by hoods and scarves. The scaffold creaks underfoot as you check the noose one last time. The woman is led forward, barefoot in the snow, lips moving in silent prayer. Her eyes meet yours. There's no hatred there, only terror. And something worse, acceptance. You speak the words. The same ritual phrases you've uttered 100 times. The crowd murmurs, the priest blesses, the knot tightens. And then, silence. The trapdoor falls. It is quick, almost merciful. You stand still as the wind whips your cloak. The village watches for a moment longer, then disperses. Another morning, another name, erased. But not for you. Back home, you warm your hands over the meager fire. Your breath still clouds the air. The silence presses against your skull until you can barely breathe. You light another candle, drink more ale, but nothing washes it away. Not the blood, not the fear, not the faces. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever forget. If one day you'll wake and the weight will be gone. But you know the answer. You've always known. There will always be another knock, and you will always answer it. The next knock comes before dawn. You barely sleep anymore, so you're already awake, staring at the ceiling as frost creeps along the window's edges. The scroll in the messenger's hand feels heavier this time. You don't even open it right away. Your fingertips trace the wax seal, mind numb, breath slow. But you know you'll look. You always do. The charge. Treason. Treason. The word is heavier than witchcraft, heavier than murder. It carries not just death, but dishonor. A man accused of betraying the crown or worse, speaking against it. In these times, that could mean anything. A drunken insult overheard in a tavern, a neighbor's grudge, or a desperate act of rebellion against crushing taxes and endless war. Historians still argue about the true nature of medieval treason. Some say it was a political tool used to silence dissent. Others insist it was a genuine threat in an era of fragile thrones and constant upheaval. You've seen both kinds. The town square looks no different this morning, though the air feels thicker. The sky is gray, the breath of the crowd rising like ghosts. They know this execution will be different, harsher. The man kneeling before you wears no defiance, only despair. He is gaunt, hollow-eyed, shivering in the wind. The axe feels heavier in your hands. You've sharpened it, polished the blade until it gleams. Ritual demands precision. Honor, such as it is, lies in the clean stroke. The priest finishes the blessing. The man speaks no last words. The axe falls, clean, merciful, over in seconds. But the weight doesn't lift. The crowd doesn't cheer. They stand silent, heads bowed. Even the children seem subdued. You wipe the blade in silence. You don't look back. At home, the fire burns low. You sip bitter ale, but it does nothing. The cold is inside you now, bone deep. In the following days, the town avoids your eyes. Even the tavern keeper barely nods. You hear whispers, new rumors, fresh accusations. You know more names will come. They always come. And when the next knock sounds, soft against your door, you rise without thinking. You light the candle, and you answer. But this time, the name is different. Unnoble. The parchment trembles in your hands as you read it. A baron accused of plotting against the king. Not a commoner, not a scapegoat. A man of real power, real influence. Executing a noble carries more than blood. It carries consequences. You pace the small room. Your heart pounds in your chest. The law is clear, but the outcome is not. The baron has allies, wealth, friends in high places. If you carry out this sentence, you risk more than whispers. You risk revenge. The axe is still sharp. The noose still ready. The crowd will still gather. But for the first time in years, you hesitate. Historians still debate whether medieval executioners had the right to refuse. Some say they could. Others claim refusal meant death. The truth is likely muddied, like everything else from this brutal age. You set the scroll aside. The fire crackles. Sleep eludes you. Morning comes. The town square fills once again. The baron stands tall, bound but defiant. His eyes burn with fury, not fear. The crowd is uneasy, hushed. Even the priest stumbles over the blessing. You take your place. The axe feels colder than ever. The baron speaks words of venom, threats, curses. He promises you ruin. He swears that this act will not be forgotten. The axe rises and falls. The crowd gasps. Some cheer. Some flee. Blood stains the snow. The body slumps. The baron's words fade into silence. Back home, the fear sets in. Not the usual weight, a sharper fear. Real, tangible. That night, you bolt the door. You sleep with the axe within reach. Every creak of wood, every howl of wind sets your heart racing. Days pass. The next knock doesn't come. Instead, a letter from the crown, a summons. You are to travel to the capital, to serve at the king's court, to become an executioner not of peasants and petty criminals, but of nobles, traitors, enemies of the realm. Your hands tremble. Historians still argue whether royal executioners were elevated or merely controlled. Some found wealth and status. Others disappeared without trace. You pack your meager belongings. The road to the capital stretches before you unknown, cold, endless. As you step out, you glance back one last time. The hut, the village, the scaffold, gone. And with them, the life you once knew. The candle burns low. The road awaits. The journey to the capital begins before the first hint of dawn. The village is still, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, and the snow crunches beneath your worn boots with each reluctant step. You carry little a small satchel with your tools, a thin cloak, and the letter that changed your life. The road winds like a serpent through the countryside. Frost-laced trees stretch skeletal arms toward the sky. The air bites at your face, and your breath emerges in ragged puffs. Each step feels heavier than the last, as though the weight of every name, every execution, every broken life you've touched now clings to your bones. The capital lies days away, but the burden arrives immediately. Historians still argue whether medieval executioners were ever truly free to refuse royal summons. Some believe such men were pawns, little more than instruments of the state, while others insist they held more power than most dared to admit. As your feet drag through frozen mud, you wonder which fate awaits you. You pass through villages. Faces turn away. Doors close. Children are pulled indoors. Even miles from your last execution, your reputation precedes you. The scarlet mark of your trade burns brighter than any torchlight. Nights bring no comfort. You sleep fitfully beneath threadbare blankets, the stars above offering no solace. The dreams return faces without names, voices without words, hands reaching from darkness. You wake to the sound of your own breath, sharp and panicked, and the dawn brings only exhaustion. On the fourth day, the capital appears on the horizon, towering stone walls, sharp spires, banners snapping in the wind. The city is alive in a way your village never was bustling, noisy, suffocating. The stench of smoke, horses, and unwashed bodies clogs the air. At the gates, guards inspect the letter. Their eyes flicker with recognition or perhaps unease. You're ushered in without fanfare. The royal palace rises at the city's heart, a jagged silhouette against the gray sky. Inside, cold stone corridors twist like labyrinths. Servants move like shadows. Every surface gleams, but the air remains heavy, as though the walls themselves remember every whispered secret, every spilled drop of blood. You are brought before a man in robes and official, face pale, expression tight. You are the executioner of Graymere, he says, not a question, but a statement. You nod. The king requires your service. You swallow hard. The letter crinkles in your hand. There's no refusing now. Historians still debate whether royal executioners were feared, respected, or merely tolerated. In these cold halls, it is clear. You are necessary, nothing more. Your chambers are sparsy stone cell dressed in luxury's thinnest disguise. A bed, a basin, a small hearth. But it's the tools that draw your eye. An array of gleaming blades, ropes, and iron implements lined along the wall. Each one speaks of a life ended, a story cut short. The first summons arrives within days. A noblewoman accused of espionage. Her name is whispered through the halls. You learn little only that she stands accused of betraying the crown. Her face is veiled when she is brought to the courtyard. The assembled crowd murmurs. There are no jeers, no cheers. Only silence. The blade flashes. The task is done. And still, the weight grows. You begin to see the faces of those you've executed in your sleep. Even when awake, shadows stretch too long. Whispers echo when the halls are still. The capital may be grand, but death tastes the same here as it did in Graymere. One evening, you find a letter slipped beneath your door. No seal. No name. Only 3 words. They are watching. Your heart pounds. The shadows shift. You light every candle, but the darkness clings. Historians still argue whether medieval courts were dens of intrigue or merely nests of terrified men clawing for power. In your bones, you know, both are true. The executions continue. A merchant accused of poisoning noble wine, a knight condemned for desertion, a scholar charged with heresy. Each face haunts you, each name blurs. Each night, sleep abandons you. The official visits rarely, but when he does, his eyes flicker with something fear, disgust. It's hard to tell. You're necessary, but necessity breeds discomfort. One night, the knock comes again, but this time, no messenger waits, only silence. Your heart races. You clutch the axe. You search the corridor empty. But on your door, scratched into the wood, repent. The next morning, a priest arrives. He speaks of redemption, of souls stained by blood, of the weight that cannot be carried alone. His words are soft, but his eyes are sharp. You nod through the sermon, but your hands shake. Historians still argue whether executioners sought forgiveness or merely endured. You wonder which you are becoming. The palace grows colder. The faces around you blur. Time loses shape. And always, the next name, the next blade, until the day your own name appears. The days blur into each other. The palace no longer feels like stone and wood. It feels like bone. Cold, hollow, brittle. You move through the corridors as if under water's low. Weightless, untethered. The summons arrive without end. The faces change, but the ritual remains the same. Names, charges, the final breath. You barely eat. Sleep is a memory. The shadows behind your eyes grow longer. The ghosts gather. Faces you once recognized now dissolve into spectral shapes, always watching, always lingering. The chill that haunts you is not from the wind or the cold stone sit is from within. One morning, you are summoned not to the courtyard, but to the royal hall. The air is heavy with incense. Tapestries line the walls, their woven scenes of valor and victory now faded into obscurity. The floor beneath your boots feels alive with whispers of the past, centuries of blood and betrayal echoing in each footfall. At the far end, the king sits. Historians still debate the nature of medieval monarchs, whether they ruled with wisdom or whim. The man before you embodies both. His gaze is sharp, his voice soft but cold. He does not ask your name. He does not offer greeting. He simply says, "Another must die." The accused is different this time. A noble, a knight of renown, once celebrated, now condemned. The charge, conspiracy, treason of the highest order. Yet something gnaws at your gut. The man's eyes, when they meet yours, hold no fear, only sadness. A weight shared, perhaps. The crowd is larger, the execution public, deliberate. The weight of spectacle presses against your chest. The axe gleams in the winter sun. The blow falls true. The silence afterward is deafening. That night, you find another message. Scratched into your chamber wall this time. Innocence. Your hands shake as you trace the letters. The chill in the room deepens. You burn every candle. You pace until dawn. In the weeks that follow, the names grow stranger. Priests, scholars, healers. The charges more tenuous. Witchcraft, sedition, heresy. The executions increase. The whispers in the corridors thicken. The city itself seems to shrink under the weight of its own fear. Markets grow quieter. Taverns empty faster. Even the palace guards avoid your gaze. Historians still argue whether fear gripped medieval capitals in waves or as a constant undertow. Here, it is both. Every knock, every scroll, every footstep could be the last. You feel it not just in your bones, but in your breath, in the heaviness of each moment. The official visits you more often, his face gaunt, eyes hollow. He speaks in riddles now, half-muttered phrases about loyalty, sacrifice, the weight of duty. You nod, but his words slide through your mind like smoke. It becomes harder to distinguish day from night, memory from nightmare. One dawn, the courtyard is empty. No crowd, no priest. Only the condemned, a young woman, barely more than a girl. The charge, unknown. The scroll is blank. You falter. She speaks, voice trembling. I'm not supposed to die. You freeze. The axe in your hands trembles. The memory of every face, every breath, every broken life crashes over you. For a moment, just one, you hesitate. The sun barely crests the horizon, casting long shadows that stretch across the frost-laced stones. Historians still debate whether medieval executioners ever defied their masters, whether any dared. Most records are silent, but some hint at rebellion. At refusal, you lower the blade. The silence stretches. The girl's eyes widen. The palace guard shifts, uncertain. And then, a horn blast. The king's voice, distant but sharp. Do your duty. Your heart pounds. Your breath shatters. The axe rises. The axe falls. The sound is different. The blood steams in the cold air. You do not remember returning to your chambers. You do not remember the rest of the day. Afterward, you are escorted back not to your chamber, but to a stone cell deep beneath the palace. The door slams. The torchlight flickers. Alone. Completely, utterly alone. The stone walls seem to pulse, to breathe. You sit on the cold floor, hand stained, mind fractured. Somewhere above, the city murmurs. The palace breathes. But here, there is only stone. Only silence. Another message carved into the wall. You don't know who or how. The letters fresh, jagged. You are next. The candle gutters. The shadows stir. You hear scratching soft, rhythmic, relentless. It could be rats, or it could be the slow, deliberate marking of your own name on stone. Time loses shape. Days or hours pass without measure. You speak aloud to no one, your voice echoing back distorted. You sleep in fits, visions of blood and bone breaking over you like dark waves. The cell shrinks with every breath. A distant memory surfaces. Your first execution. A name you cannot remember. A face already lost. The weight you felt then a sliver of doubt buried deep. Now that doubt blooms into something monstrous, something uncontainable. Historians still wonder if executioners ever wept. Some accounts suggest they did, in the privacy of shadows. Others insist they hardened beyond feeling. You do not know where you fall. Another message appears overnight. It ends soon. Your hands bleed from clawing at the door. Your throat is raw from screams swallowed by stone. No one comes. No food. No light beyond the flicker of dying torches. And then the door creaks open. A figure hooded silent beckons. You follow, legs trembling, heart a hollow drum. The corridors blur, the stairs twist. You are brought not to the courtyard, but to a chapel deep within the palace walls. Candles burn. A priest chants. At the center mirror, the figure removes their hood. It is you, or something wearing your face. Pale, bruised, eyes empty. The priest speaks one word. Confess. You fall to your knees. Words spill names, faces, regrets, fragments of shattered memory. The mirror reflects everything. The blood, the brokenness, the man you became. The figure watches silently. The candles gutter. The walls shift. And then darkness. When you wake, you are back in the cell. The door is open. The palace is silent. Snow drifts through broken windows. There is no sound but the wind. You rise, you walk. The city beyond is empty, abandoned, crumbling. Your name is gone. Your shadow follows without tether. You are the last witness to your own story. And somewhere in the distance, the faint echo of a bell. The world Outside, your cell has shifted. The once familiar stone corridors are unfamiliar now, cloaked in frost, draped in silence so thick it presses against your ribs. The echoes of footsteps yours alone seem to multiply, as if unseen figures are walking beside you in the dark. You move as though in a dream, as though your body remembers the way while your mind drifts elsewhere, frayed and fragile. Historians still debate the psychological effects of prolonged isolation in medieval times. Some argue that minds fractured, others that resilience was born from hardship. You are caught between both. Each breath feels both ancient and newborn. Each heartbeat a reminder that you are still here, though barely. The corridors twist. Stone gives way to wood, then back to stone. Torches flicker and die without warning. Your fingertips graze walls damp with centuries of forgotten tears. Above, the occasional groan of distant timbers suggests that lifesome semblance of it still clings to the palace bones. And then you find it, the grand hall, deserted. Dust coats the banners. The long table is set for a feast that never came. Plates of rusted silver, goblets overturned, chairs askew. The fire in the great hearth long dead. At the far end of the room, a single object gleams, the executioner's axe. You approach slowly. Each step echoes like thunder. The handle is smooth from use, the blade polished by hands long gone, but there is something elsie slip of parchment nailed to the wood beneath it. A single word in a hand you don't recognize. Remember. Your throat tightens. The weight of memory presses against your temples. The faces, the names, the cries. The countless lives that passed beneath your hand, some guilty, some not, all equal beneath the blade. Historians still argue whether executioners were ever haunted by remorse, whether any of them tried to count the names, or if the weight simply became too great, forcing the mind to fracture or forget. You cannot forget. The door to the grand hall creaks. You turn. No one. The shadows move without sound. You step forward. The hall stretches longer than it should, doors appearing where none existed before. Windows stare without glass. The air thickens. You step through one of the doors, and suddenly, the market square, sunlight, voices, the clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the world alive again. But something is wrong. Everyone moves too slowly. Faces blur. Words drift in and out of meaning. You try to speak, but no sound comes. You try to move, but your feet sink into the stone like mud. Time fractures. The young girl is there, the one you almost spared. She stands at the edge of the square, eyes locked on yours. Her lips move, but you cannot hear her. She raises a hand not in accusation, but in warning. A horn blast. The vision shatters. You collapse back into darkness. The market gone. The cold returns. When you wake, you are not alone. The figure in the corner does not move. Hooded, silent, watching. The air between you hums with tension, with the weight of unspoken words. The figure lifts a hand and points to the wall. To another message, newly carved. The price must be paid. You try to speak. Your voice cracks, barely more than a whisper. Who are you? The figure fades. The wall remains. Days pass, or hours, or minutes. You no longer trust the passage of time. Hunger gnaws at your bones. Thirst burns. Yet still, you rise each time the door creaks open, each time the summons comes. One day, if it is day, you are led not to a courtyard, but to the cathedral. The high vaulted ceiling stretches to darkness. The stained glass windows glow faintly in the moonlight. Rows of pews sit empty. At the far end, the altar. Upon it, nothing but the executioner's hood. The priest stands beside it. His voice echoes, words half remembered from countless ceremonies. Life, death, repentance, judgment. But there is no crowd, no accused, only you. The hood is handed to you. You do not put it on. You do not move. The priest tilts his head, curious. a silent question. Historians still debate whether medieval rites were acts of faith or theater, whether the symbols held true power or whether they were hollow gestures to mask brutality. You lower the hood, you walk away. The city burns behind your eyes. Faces flash. Names rise and fall. The figure appears again as you stumble through the palace ruins. They do not speak, only watch, only follow, always just out of reach. The messages continue. The end is near. The blade cannot forget. One more. The snow falls heavier now. The streets you knew dissolve into white. Each breath crystallizes. Each step is slower, heavier. The bell tolls. You stop. Ahead, the scaffold. Alone, waiting. The axe in your hands. No condemned. No crowd. Only you. Your reflection in the blade stares back. Hollow-eyed, gaunt. A shadow of the man who once held steady hands. Historians still argue whether executioners ever faced their own justice, whether the wheel turned in time, whether the blade eventually claimed the hand that wielded it. You stand upon the scaffold as the final snow falls. The wind howls, the palace fades into mist, and then darkness. The candle extinguishes. The knock comes once more. The story continues. The world collapses inward. The scaffold beneath your feet disappears. The snow dissolves. The weight of the axe in your hands vanishes. You drift untethered, unseen, unmade. And then, a breath. You wake. The cell. The damp stone walls. The flicker of a dying torch. But something is wrong. Your hands are clean. Your robe is unstained. The air is different. Softer, somehow. Historians still argue whether memory can fracture so deeply that reality bends to meet it, whether the mind, under extreme strain, creates worlds to shield itself from horror. You wonder if this is such a moment, or if something older, darker, moves beneath the surface of your life. The door creaks open. A different figure stands there taller, robed in silver-threaded black, their face hidden behind a mask of polished bone. They say only one word. Come. Your legs obey before your mind can resist. You follow through endless corridors, none of which you recognize. Arches of carved stone, floors of ancient mosaics, walls lined with rusted suits of armor. The palace has changed. Or perhaps you have. At last you arrive. A circular chamber. Candles flicker in iron sconces. The floor bears the emblem of the kingdom, cracked, faded. In the center, a chair of stone. Upon it sits the king, but not the king you knew. Historians still debate the lifespan of medieval monarchs. Some ruled for decades, others were replaced swiftly by rival claims or sudden death. The man before you as flesh is pale, stretched thin. His eyes gleam with unnatural light. His voice, when it comes, is both echo and whisper. The blade must serve. You open your mouth, but no sound escapes. Your knees buckle. You drop to the cold stone floor. The king's hand rises, points. Another figure emerges from the shadows. The condemned, hooded, bound. The axe is placed in your hands. Without thought, without will, your body moves. The blade falls. Silence. And then the scene rewinds. The figure hooded, bound. The axe placed in your hands. The blade falls. Again and again. Time loops. Days, moments fold into each other. The execution repeats. Each time the face beneath the hood changes. Child, elder, soldier, scholar, stranger, reflection. Historians still debate whether time, as we understand it, held the same meaning in the medieval mind. Whether prophecy, dream, and vision were accepted as reality. You begin to lose the thread of truth yourself. The blade falls. The blade falls. The blade falls. Until you stand alone. The chamber is empty. The king gone. The candles extinguished. Only the chair remains. And the axe, stained beyond recognition. A parchment flutters on the chair. End it. You drop the axe. It strikes the stone with a sound that echoes into forever. Your breath quickens. Your heart pounds. The walls close in. You run. Corridors blur past. Doors slam shut behind you. The floor cracks beneath your feet. Somewhere a bell tolls sound deeper, heavier than before. The palace itself seems alive, its bones groaning, its breath cold. You find a door. You wrench it open. Sunlight, fields, birdsong. Ah, village. Impossible. You step forward and collapse. When you wake, you are lying in straw. The sky above is clear. The village hums with life. Farmers tending fields, children playing, merchants calling wares. No palace, no axe, no blood. You sit up. A woman approaches, offers you bread and water. Her eyes are kind. Her voice gentle. You must have had a rough night, friend. Historians still argue whether cases of total amnesia occurred in medieval times or whether such stories were metaphor, parable, myth. You wonder which you are. You accept the bread, the water, the warmth of the sun, and for a moment just one peace settles over you. But as the wind shifts, you glimpse it. At the village edge, a figure in black, masked, still, watching. Your breath catches. Your heart stumbles. The figure does not move. The wind carries a single word to your ears. Remember. Your hands tremble. The bread falls. The peace fractures. You rise. The village fades. The scaffold returns. The axe waits. The lines blur. The walls collapse. The story spirals. You wake-a, you think you wake-to the sound of distant bells. The sky above is the color of ash. The ground beneath you is neither earth nor stone, but something in between. The village is gone, the palace is gone, all is shadow. And yet, you are still you. Historians still debate the prevalence of dream visions in medieval chronicles. Some were seen as prophecy, others as divine punishment or holy warning. You wonder which this is as you rise once more. The masked figure stands before you. The blade, they whisper, binds you still, in their hands. The axe. Your hands move before thought. You take it. The weight is familiar. The chill sinks into your bones. The wind howls through a forgotten landscape, trees twisted into impossible shapes. Rivers flowing backwards. The sky stitched with stars you do not know. You walk. Footsteps echo. The ground shifts. The world flickers. Faces appear in the mist. The condemned, the noble, the peasant, the girl, the knight. Their eyes find yours. Accuse, beg, forgive. The masked figure guides you. At last, a stone platform rises from the fog. A new scaffold. Empty. Waiting. You step onto it. Historians still argue whether medieval executioners viewed their role as sacred duty, civic necessity, or reluctant burden. You no longer know which you are, only that the motion the ceremony continues. The condemned stands before you, a mirror. It is you. Your hands tremble. The axe wavers. The mist thickens. You raise the blade. The blade falls, and you awaken. Wooden beams, straw, the scent of bread baking, the gentle murmur of a village morning. A child laughs outside. You sit up. The weight of the dreamer memory clings like damp wool. A woman enters, smiles, offers food. Again, the day proceeds. Markets bustle, bells chime. Night falls. The wind rises. And again, the masked figure, the scaffold, the blade. The cycle repeats. Historians still debate whether medieval minds truly conceived of time as linear or whether, as some writings suggest, they saw history as circular, forever turning, without end. You live this truth. Again, and again, and again. Each time, the faces change. The names blur. The towns shift. But the scaffold remains. The axe falls. One day, you try to resist. You drop the axe. You flee. through forests, rivers, fields. But no matter how far you run, the path bends. The world folds, the scaffold awaits. Another day, you try kindness. You spare the condemned. Their eyes widen in thanks. But the next dawn, the masked figure, the blade, the sentence. You try silence. You try violence. You try pleading with the sky, with the earth, with whatever gods might hear. Nothing breaks the wheel. Historians still argue whether medieval tales of eternal punishment, the wandering knight, the cursed sinner were allegory or belief. You no longer care which. You live the curse. One evening, a shift. The masked figure speaks more than one word. Choice, they say, voice thin as wind. This is your trial, not theirs. You stagger. You fall to your knees. End it, they say. You look down. In your hands, not an axe, but a feather. A quill. The scaffold fades. The stones dissolve. The sky opens. A desk before you. A parchment. Blank. You sit. You write. Your name. Your truth. Your confession. Words flow. Ink spills. The candle burns low. When the final line is written, the axe shatters. The mask falls. You look up and see your own face. Historians still debate whether redemption was possible for those who carried out medieval executions, whether salvation could be found through repentance, through story, through memory. You set the quill down. The village returns. The morning brightens. The air is clean. You rise. No axe, only light. The morning feels different. You awaken not to the clatter of distant bells or the cold press of nightmares, but to a hush of stillness that stretches across the dawn like silk. The village breathes, slow and steady. The sun spills gold through the narrow window. You sit up. Your hands are clean. For the first time, there is no weight. Historians still debate whether medieval folk truly believed in second chances, in the idea that one's fate could be rewritten by action, confession, or divine will. You wonder if you are living such a moment. The bread is warm, the water is clear. A child outside calls for their mother, laughter dancing through the morning air. But beneath it all something stirs. The wind carries a familiar scent, old wood, distant iron, a memory of blood. You rise, you step into the light. The village moves around you, merchants with carts, farmers with baskets, children at play, faces smile, voices greet you. For a while, just a little while, it feels real, solid, safe. But every shadow seems to lean toward you. Every flicker at the corner of your eye hints at the masked figure. And then you see it. At the village edge, a stone path, a scaffold, distant but unmistakable. You turn away. You walk the other direction. Fields, streams, forests. But every path bends. Every road curls back. The scaffold remains. Historians still argue whether medieval belief in fate, the great chain, was absolute. Whether free will existed in the minds of those living under monarchs, priests, and feudal lords. You wrestle with this thought as the hours unravel. At dusk, you find the quill again. The parchment, blank. Words flow. I choose not to choose. The ink burns into the page. The air hums. The ground shifts. You wake. Another village. Another dawn. This time, no bread, no voices. The world is silent. The sky a flat, iron gray. The trees skeletal. You walk. Alone. The scaffold appears sooner. The masked figure stands upon it. They do not move. They do not speak. In your hands, the axe. You drop it. It vanishes before it strikes the earth. The figure lowers their mask. Your own eyes stare back. There is no escape, they say, voice an echo of your own. There is only surrender or remembrance. Historians still debate whether medieval minds truly understood the self, the I, as we do now. You feel yourself fracturing under the weight of endless selves, endless decisions. The scaffold crumbles. The sky tears open. You fall. When you wake again, stone walls, a narrow bed, the smell of ink and old leather. You are not in the village. You are in a monastery. A monk sits nearby, reading by candlelight. He glances up, smiles softly. You've returned, he says. Not all who wander do. Your voice fails. Your hands tremble. Rest, he says. The path will reveal itself. Historians still debate whether monasteries served as sanctuaries for the broken in medieval times or as prisons of another kind. You close your eyes and let the question drift. Days pass. The bells ring soft and low. You copy texts. You tend gardens. You breathe. But the dreams return. Always. The scaffold. The axe. The masked self. One dawn, the monk leaves a scroll upon your table. 4 words. To end the wheel. You unfurl the scroll. Beneath the words, an image, a key. Your heart stirs. Your breath quickens. You rise. The monastery door opens to darkness. Fog curls around your feet. The world tilts. And ahead, the path begins anew. Guys, if you're watching this sleep story right now, comment what time it is and where you're watching from your city and country. The place that gets the most likes? Our next video will dive into its history. So drop your comment below. The path beneath your feet crunches softly with frost as you step beyond the monastery walls. Fog coils around your ankles. The night sky above is a deep velvet, lit only by the sliver of a cold moon. You move without direction, your breath misting in the chilled air. The scroll with the strange key symbol burns in your mind. It is as if something ancient is pulling you, drawing you toward a destiny you cannot name but cannot refuse. Every footfall feels heavier, as though unseen hands tug at your limbs. The world around you whispers. You hear distant echoes chanting, laughter, or your own fraying thoughts. It's hard to tell. Each breath tastes of iron and earth. The cold settles deep into your bones. You are no longer sure where you are or who you are becoming. The line between memory and madness blurs with each step. Historians still debate whether medieval people believed in destiny as an unchangeable path or something woven by daily choices. You wonder where you stand in that divide. The idea that each decision shapes the thread of fate, that a single refusal or a single act of mercy could spiral into something vast haunts you. Some say fate is fixed. Others say fate listens. Suddenly, you find yourself before an archway of stone ancient, weathered, its keystone marked with the same symbol from the scroll. The wind dies. The forest holds its breath. The trees stand silent as sentinels, their bare branches reaching like skeletal fingers into the misted sky. The stillness is absolute. Time itself seems to falter. You step through, and the world tilts. The air grows thick, pulsing, alive. Shadows twist around you, elongating into impossible shapes. The earth breathes beneath your feet. Time itself seems to fold, layers of past and present peeling back like brittle parchment. Each breath you take tastes of iron and ash. The fog glows with an unnatural light. And then a village. But not the village you knew. The houses are rung taller, sharper, leaning at angles that defy logic. The people move strangely, their faces hidden behind grotesque masks of wood, bone, and cloth. Fires burn with eerie blue flames. The sky above ripples like disturbed water, its stars swirling in unnatural patterns. Somewhere, a bell tulsa sound like a heartbeat echoing through stone. You feel your heart hammer. You whisper, "Where am I?" And something answers, "You are where you've always been." You stumble forward. The crowd parts wordlessly. At the village center, the scaffold. The masked executioner stands waiting. And beneath the mask yourself. Your own face distorted in the twisted mirror of this nightmare. The axe glints in torchlight. The ropes creak with unseen weight. The ground beneath your feet shudders with some deep, buried heartbeat. You try to speak, no sound comes. The world dissolves into echoes. Your vision blurs, and in the distanza, voice cuts through the chaos. I'll remind you, guys, if you're watching this story right now, take a second look at the time, look at where you are. Drop a comment below. Your city, your country, and the current time. The most liked comment? That place becomes the next story. So go ahead, be part of the history we tell. The words drift strangely, as though not quite belonging to this place or time, yet they anchor you. Your hands steady, your breath slows. Reality, however fragile, reasserts itself if only for a moment. The flicker of modern language in this medieval nightmare shakes you awake just enough. The crowd around the scaffold murmurs, then fades into shadow. The executioner lowers the blade. The sky ripples. The ground hums. Historians still argue whether moments of awakening epiphanies were recorded accurately in medieval times. Perhaps they were only whispered in sacred spaces or kept secret by those too frightened to speak. Perhaps they were forgotten entirely. You wonder which of those you are. The key you hold begins to glow faintly, illuminating your path. The road ahead splits on way back to the monastery, another into the dark woods, and a third into blinding white light. Each step forward feels like a choice, though you no longer know if choice is truly yours. You take a step, and the world shifts again. Stone underfoot. A castle vast and crumbling stretches into the clouds. You stand upon a parapet, the wind roaring around you like a living thing. Below, darkness without end. The cold bites deep, but you barely feel it. Somewhere far below, a single torch burns a point of light in the endless dark. The voice returns. There are no endings, only choices, only echoes. You close your eyes. The wind howls. You let go of the scroll. It drifts away on the wind like ash, spinning, vanishing into the night. When you open your eyes again, you are somewhere familiar. A small room, a flickering fire. The scent of bread and honey lingers in the air. The door is closed. The shadows are still. And written upon the wall, carved deep, choose. You exhale. Your heart pounds. You step forward once more, and the world holds its breath. The candlelight flickers as you stand motionless, the word choose carved into the timber before you. The small, warm room feels foreign, fragile, as though one breath could shatter it. Your hands still tremble. Your heart is still not your own. The question looms larger than the stone towers you've left behind. Choose what? You sit. The fire crackles gently, casting shadows that dance across the wooden walls. Somewhere distant, the tolling of a bellow, mournful, reaches your ears. You realize you know this place. It's your childhood memory, reconstructed perfectly. The smell of baking bread, the faded cloth on the table, the carved wooden animals your mother once made. But none of this is real. Historians still debate whether memory or myth holds more power in shaping how the Middle Ages are remembered. Are the stories passed down from generation to generation more true than the recorded facts? Here, in this moment, you understand. Memory and myth are one. The door creaks. You stand, heart racing. Through the open doorway lies not the village, but a different path, a winding forest trail, shrouded in mist. You step forward. The fire dies behind you. The path twists and splits. Each branch leads to a scene from your past executions, faces you've forgotten, places you buried deep in your mind. They whisper as you pass, their voices soft as dead leaves. Each footstep feels heavier, each breath tighter. You reach a crossroads. 3 figures stand waiting. The first is a woman in tattered robes, face hidden behind a veil. In her hand, a pair of scales. The second is a man in armor, rusted and broken, his face hollow with grief. He holds a sword tipped down into the earth. The third is a child, barefoot, wide-eyed, clutching nothing but a withered flower. None speak, yet you understand. These are your choices. Historians still argue whether medieval executioners were victims of their age or willing participants in cruelty. Some records speak of regret, others of zeal. The truth, as always, lies between. You close your eyes. In the darkness, a voice rises. Guys, if you're watching this video, comment your time, your country, your city. The place with the most likes will inspire the next story. Be part of history. The surreal reminder tethers you. The world quivers. And you choose. You step toward the veiled woman. The mists part. The ground gives way to cobblestones slick with rain. You stand in the shadow of a vast cathedral, its spires clawing at the bruised sky. The crowd swells around you, peasants, priests, nobles, all eyes fixed on the scaffold. Your name is called. The accused is brought forth, not a criminal, but a bishop. Accused of heresy. The crowd murmurs. The air tastes of ash and iron. You hesitate. The bishop meets your eyes. He smiles faintly. Do not fear, he whispers. This is not the end. Historians still debate whether the church wielded more power through faith or through fear. Today, you see both. The axe in your hands feels heavier than stone. The crowd roars, the bishop kneels, and you refuse. The crowd surges. The guards seize you. Chains bite into your wrists. The bishop's head rolls regardless. You are dragged, beaten, cast into the cathedral's crypt. Darkness swallows you whole. Hours, days pass. Time unravels. Your body fades, but your mind clings to fragments. The bells toll, the glint of the blade, the silent choice. And then, light, a hand. The child from before pulls you to your feet. It's not over, the child says softly. Not yet. You follow, dazed. The crypt melts away. You walk through endless corridors, stone, then wood, then bare earth. The worlds shift, history folds. Past and present collide. You find yourself standing once more at a scaffold, but now it is empty. No crowd, no condemned. Just the wind and the weight of memory. The child vanishes. In your hand, the key. In your heart, the ache of choices made and unmade. You look to the horizon, where the sun finally rises, and the story breathes on. Hours pass. You walk through Echo's markets alive with forgotten laughter, battles painted in shades of gray, the silent corners of monasteries where monks bend over ancient texts. Each scene passes like a dream you can't quite hold. In one village, you find yourself kneeling at the edge of a plague pit, the air choked with the stench of decay. In another, you stand beneath gallows where hundreds of bodies sway in the wind, justice or vengeance lost to history. Historians still argue whether fear or survival drove medieval minds more. Here, fear has grown teeth. The veiled woman appears again. There are more choices, she says softly, but only one truth. You kneel, you rise, you fall. Time shatters. You glimpse lives you never lived. A farmer, a knight, a nun, a scribe. Each time you choose mercy, the world bends. Each time you choose violence, it darkens. In the end, you stand before the cathedral once more. Your reflection fracture, the weight of the past clings to your skin. You awaken in darkness. The air is cold and damp, the scratchy straw mat beneath you itching against your skin. For one fragile moment, you forget who you are. But the ache in your bones, the sharp chill in your lungs, and the heavy silence surrounding you pulls you back. This is no dream. This is real. This is the nightmare you call life. Somewhere, in the distance, a bell tolls. Its low, mournful chime seems to vibrate through your chest, marking time in a world where time has no meaning. The door creaks. Heavy iron hinges groaning. The same gaunt-faced official steps inside, his expression hollow, eyes dull. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. He drops a bundle at your feet, your executioner's garb. The cracked leather boots, the blackened, blood-stained cloak, and, of course, the mask. That dreadful mask. The one that hides everything yet reveals who you truly are. Your hands tremble as you dress. Each movement feels detached, mechanical. The fabric is cold, stiff, unyielding. The mask slides over your face, the leather clinging to your skin. You know every stitch, every tear. It's as familiar as your own reflection. Historians still argue whether medieval executioners led lives outside their gruesome work. Some say they married, farmed, even laughed. Others claim they were pariahs, shunned by all. Some records tell of men who vanished into the countryside, leaving their bloody pasts behind. Others speak of executioners who lost their minds haunted by the faces of those they ended. Today feels heavier, different. You can't explain why. The sky is bruised, thick clouds hanging low, pressing the world into silence. Your footsteps echo strangely as you walk to the square. The crowd has gathered. There's so many eyes fixed on you. The murmurs ripple like wind over water. And then you see who you've come for. A child, no older than 12. Thin, pale, eyes wide with terror. Accused of theft, punishment, death. Your breath catches. Your hands freeze. The axe is too heavy. Your knees lock. This cannot be right. Your voice is soft and trembling escapes your lips. No. Historians debate whether mercy was ever shown in such cases. Some accounts tell of royal pardons. Others speak of blind, brutal justice with no room for compassion. No one knows how many executioners hesitated, how many disobeyed. You lower the axe. Gasps ripple through the crowd. The guards step forward, weapons drawn. But you stand firm. The mask slips from your hands. The child runs, tiny feet pounding against cobblestones. Freedom, however brief. Then chaos. The crowd surges. The guard sees you. Fists, shouts, the crack of bone. You fall. Darkness. You awaken. Somewhere. Nowhere. A cellar, perhaps a memory. Shadows ripple along the walls. The air pulses, thick with something unseen. And Dina voice. Soft, unfamiliar. It doesn't have to end this way. You rise. Your limbs ache, but you stand. The cell door yawns open. No guards, no chains. You step into shifting corridors. Doors appear, vanish. Through one, you glimpse gold and Velveeta banquet hall. Through another, blood-soaked fields of war. Through yet another, a quiet cottage. Firelight, warmth, peace. Historians still argue whether destiny is fixed or if true choice exists at all. Whether one act of defiance can ripple through time. At last, you reach a crossroads. 3 paths stretch before you. Fate, forgiveness, forgetting. You choose. The path of forgiveness leads to a field of crimson poppies. Faces bloom within the petals. The weight of your deeds presses you down. You kneel. The wind carries voices' names you've long forgotten. The path of forgetting leads to a glassy lake. Your reflection smiles a younger, unscarred version of yourself. But cracks spread. Splinters. Shatter. The truth cannot be erased. The path of fate leads to the gallows. This time, the crowd waits for you. And you no longer the executioner stand as the condemned. You, Avaka once more. A letter lies on your chest. Shaking hands unfold the brittle paper. You can still change. The air smells different. The village is silent, empty. The gallows stand rotted, forgotten. Time unspools. You walk through the ruins of your story. Faces blurry, forgotten slide past. Bells toll in the distance, and then the sea. Vast, endless. The sun dips in violent reds and purples. The sky cracks open. You set the axe down. You remove the mask. The wind swallows your name. Historians debate whether the past ever truly lets go, whether we carry our choices beyond the grave. You step into the sea. The water swallows your footprints. The sky erases your shadow. And for the first time, you are free. Or so you believe. The bell tolls once more. Your eyes open to the thick, suffocating darkness once again. But this time, something has shifted in the air around you. The weight of memory and fear presses heavier against your chest, as though the very stones that surround you are watching, breathing, remembering. You blink several times, but the shadows remain, curling in the corners of your vision like smoke. You do not know how long you have been here, hours, days, or perhaps longer. Time folds and twists in this strange place where past and present bleed together. The cold gnaws at your bones. Your fingers tremble as you push yourself upright, muscles burning with the effort. Every breath is sharp, every movement stiff and painful. The straw beneath you is damp and brittle. The bruises along your ribs pulse with dull agony. Yet somehow, despite it all, you are still alive. For now, for a little while longer. Footsteps echo. Slow, deliberate. The sound sends ice through your veins. You barely have time to brace yourself before the heavy wooden door groans open on rusted hinges. But it is not the familiar hollow-eyed official this time. No. This time it is someone else, entirely a man in fine robes of deep crimson, his face hidden beneath the shadow of an embroidered cowl. The gold threads glint even in the dim light. "Get up," he murmurs softly, his voice smooth and quiet, but laced with undeniable authority. You still have work to do. You swallow hard, throat dry as dust. The words barely register through the pounding in your head. You shake your head weakly, breath catching in your throat. "No more," you whisper hoarsely. "I'm done." The man tilts his head as if studying an insect pinned beneath glass. "Done?" he repeats, the faintest trace of amusement in his tone. "There is no done for people like you. The burden you carry does not vanish. The stain does not fade. You carry this weight forever. The only question," he steps closer, "is whether you will break beneath it or stand." Historians still argue whether medieval executioners were truly reviled or merely tolerated, whether they were paid handsomely yet shunned, or treated as indispensable cogs in the brutal machinery of justice. Some ancient scrolls speak of executioners who lived double lives. Men who carried out grim duties by day and returned to quiet family homes by night. Others tell darker tales of men driven mad by the endless weight of death, haunted by the faces of the condemned, their souls eroded by guilt until nothing human remained. Your breath clouds in the frozen air. "I won't," you rasp, voice shaking. "I won't do it." The man's smile widens just slightly, but it never reaches his eyes. "Then let me show you what refusal looks like," he murmurs. With a flick of his hand, the stone walls dissolve into mist. The floor vanishes from beneath you. You stumble, disoriented, as the world reshapes itself in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, you are no longer in the cell. You stand instead in a vast market square beneath a blood-red sky. The air reeks of smoke and charred flesh. The sound of distant screaming pierces your ears. Bodies lie crumpled on the cobblestones, men, women, children. The sight robs the breath from your lungs. You stagger backwards, horror rising like bile. "You did this," the man says softly, almost kindly, as though explaining something simple to a child. By refusing, you try to deny it. Your lips form the words, but the images overwhelm you. You see the faces blurred but familiar, the weeping child from before, the frantic mother, the merchant with pleading eyes. All here, all dead, their blood stains your hands. You collapse to your knees, heart shattering. Despair crashes over you in suffocating waves. The weight of it crushes your chest. History, the man says calmly, does not remember intentions, only actions. Your tears fall freely. The weight is unbearable. Yet somewhere, deep within the hollow ache of your soul, a spark flickers. Faint, fragile, but alive. And so you rise, slowly, shaking. But you rise. The man watches, impassive. Choose, he murmurs. Again, always again. The world fractures. The scene blurs and shifts. The sea, the crossroads, the gallows, the field of poppies, all layered atop one another in dizzying fragments. Shards of your memory, or perhaps pieces of someone else's dream. And you choose, and choose, and choose again. The cycle repeats. The bell tolls, the mask returns, the gleam of the axe, the gathering crowd. But each time, each fragile repetition a flicker, a hesitation, a breath held a moment longer, a spark of defiance growing brighter in the dark. Historians still debate whether fate is fixed or whether one single choice, made in the right moment, can change everything. Some scholars say the medieval world was rigid, unyielding. Others insist that even the smallest defiance could ripple across centuries. Yuawaka once more. A letter lies on your chest. Your trembling fingers unfold the parchment. You can still change. The words burn into your mind. You clutch them close. The world around you fractures again. The sea rises. The bell tolls. The winds shift, carrying stories of a forgotten age. You awaken once more, not to the comfort of familiarity, but to a landscape unmoored from time, adrift between memory and imagination. It is neither night nor day, but an endless golden twilight, casting everything in soft, surreal glow. Your breath hitches as you sit up, and for one fragile moment, you wonder, is this still life or some echo of life? The ground beneath you is soft, yielding, more like a dream than earth. Somewhere in the far distance, faint as a heartbeat heard through stone, the familiar bell tolls slow, deep, mournful. The sound curls through the air, brushing against your skin like the softest whisper. Your hands find only emptiness. The axe gone, the mask gone. Even the coarse fabric of your old life has disappeared, replaced by robes of strange cloth, unfamiliar but weightless. You are someone else, or perhaps you are finally yourself. Historians still debate whether executioners were allowed private lives, whether they found peace outside the scaffold. Some scrolls suggest that in rare cases they became wanderers, taking up lives of hermits, pilgrims, or simple tradesmen. Others insist that their deeds forever haunted them, visible in the eyes of every passerby. You rise, slowly, uncertain. The world stretches before you, rolling hills of silver grass, a sky swirling with violet and amber, and far on the horizon something glinting. A path emerges beneath your feet, as if called forth by your very thought. Etched into the ground in curling script are 3 words: remember, regret, release. With no better choice, you begin to walk. The grass whispers as you pass, each step stirring scents of wild mint, crushed thyme, and something older like burned wood or ancient incense. The sky above shifts constantly, sometimes streaked with gold, sometimes veiled in deep purple as unfamiliar constellations burn coldly overhead. Time loses meaning. Distance becomes a suggestion. The landscape folds and unfolds like the pages of a vast living book. Historians still argue whether the medieval mind perceived time as linear or cyclical. Some suggest that in an age of repetitive toil, time itself blurred, becoming a loop of seasons, festivals, and fates endlessly repeating. Others claim that moments of transcendence like this offered glimpses beyond the mundane. You pass through an abandoned village. The houses lean, roofs caved in, doors swinging in silent wind. Yet as you walk, shadows flicker at the edges of your vision. Families around fires, laughter spilling from open windows, music drifting on the breeze. Ghosts of lives once lived. You blink. The village fades, the path twists. Ahead, standing in the center of an open field, is a tree unlike any other. Its bark charred black, its limbs twisted as if in agony. Beneath its roots, bones, dozens, hundreds, skulls grinning with hollow eyes. The ground is littered with memories of execution. You pause. A woman appears, hooded, faceless, her robes shifting like mist. She raises a hand not to stop you, not to harm you, but to offer something. In her palm rests a single coin, worn, ancient, marked with a sigil you do not recognize. The weight of it, you sense, is far greater than its size. Historians still discuss the meaning of coins found in medieval graves. Payment for passage to the afterlife, wards against restless spirits, or tokens of penance and forgiveness. No one truly knows. You accept the coin, the world shivers, the field blurs, the tree dissolves into mist. Now you stand before water vast, black, glassy. A boat awaits, small, simple, bobbing gently. It has no oars, no sail. It waits. You step inside. The boat moves, slowly, silently. The water stretches forever. Above you, the sky fractures, stars spill across velvet darkness. The constellations pulse patterns ancient beyond comprehension. You close your eyes. When you open them, you are elsewhere. A medieval market square, empty. Dust-laden, stalls half collapsed, rotten fruit abandoned on wooden tables. The wind carries whisper snatches of old conversations, laughter long since ended. You turn and see yourself, younger, before the mask, before the blade, laughing. Alive! Your breath catches. You call out, but no sound comes. The younger version fades, dissolving like smoke. Gone. You fall to your knees. The weight of loss of choice is made, of paths walked crashes over you. A voice stirs. You can still choose. Historians still argue whether destiny is fixed or fluid, whether the medieval mind believed in preordained fate or the power of personal redemption. You rise. The market dissolves, the boat returns, the water darkens. Faces stir beneath the waves, pale, distant, mournful. Eyes, you know. Eyes of those you condemned. They do not accuse. They grieve. Tears blur your vision. The boat drifts, finally ashore. White stone, gold-lit sky. Silence profound. You step off. The weight lifts. The mask is gone. The axe is gone. Only you remain. A door waits, carved from bone and starlight. You step forward. The door opens, and you walk through. Historians still debate whether forgiveness is divine, human, or something older than both. Some say it is impossible, others necessary. You vanish into light. The winds shift, carrying stories of a forgotten age. You awaken once more, not to the comfort of familiarity, but to a landscape unmoored from time, adrift between memory and imagination. It is neither night nor day, but an endless golden twilight, casting everything in soft, surreal glow. Your breath hitches as you sit up, and for one fragile moment, you wonder, is this still life or some echo of life? The ground beneath you is soft, yielding, more like a dream than earth. Somewhere in the far distance, faint as a heartbeat heard through stone, the familiar bell tolls slow, deep, mournful. The sound curls through the air, brushing against your skin like the softest whisper. Your hands find only emptiness, the axe gone, the mask gone. Even the coarse fabric of your old life has disappeared, replaced by robes of strange cloth, unfamiliar but weightless. You are someone else, or perhaps you are finally yourself. Historians still debate whether executioners were allowed private lives, whether they found peace outside the scaffold. Some scrolls suggest that in rare cases they became wanderers, taking up lives of hermits, pilgrims, or simple tradesmen. Others insist that their deeds forever haunted them, visible in the eyes of every passerby. You rise, slowly, uncertain. The world stretches before you, rolling hills of silver grass, a sky swirling with violet and amber, and far on the horizon something glinting. A path emerges beneath your feet, as if called forth by your very thought. Etched into the ground in curling script are 3 words: remember, regret, release. With no better choice, you begin to walk. The grass whispers as you pass, each step stirring scents of wild mint, crushed thyme, and something older like burned wood or ancient incense. The sky above shifts constantly, sometimes streaked with gold, sometimes veiled in deep purple as unfamiliar constellations burn coldly overhead. Time loses meaning. Distance becomes a suggestion. The landscape folds and unfolds like the pages of a vast, living book. Historians still argue whether the medieval mind perceived time as linear or cyclical. Some suggest that in an age of repetitive toil, time itself blurred, becoming a loop of seasons, festivals, and fates endlessly repeating. Others claim that moments of transcendence like this offered glimpses beyond the mundane. You pass through an abandoned village, the houses lean, roofs caved in, doors swinging in silent wind. Yet as you walk, shadows flicker at the edges of your vision, families around fires, laughter spilling from open windows, music drifting on the breeze, ghosts of lives once lived. You blink. The village fades, the path twists. Ahead, standing in the center of an open field, is a tree unlike any other, its bark charred black, its limbs twisted as if in agony. Beneath its roots, bones, dozens, hundreds, skulls grinning with hollow eyes. The ground is littered with memories of execution. You pause. A woman appears, hooded, faceless, her robes shifting like mist. She raises a hand not to stop you, not to harm you, but to offer something. In her palm rests a single coin, worn, ancient, marked with a sigil you do not recognize. The weight of it, you sense, is far greater than its size. Historians still discuss the meaning of coins found in medieval graves, payment for passage to the afterlife, wards against restless spirits, or tokens of penance and forgiveness. No one truly knows. You accept the coin. The world shivers. The field blurs. The tree dissolves into mist. Now you stand before water vast, black, glassy. A boat awaits, small, simple, bobbing gently. It has no oars, no sail. It waits. You step inside. The boat moves. Slowly, silently. The water stretches forever. Above you, the sky fractures. Stars spill across velvet darkness. The constellations' pulse patterns ancient beyond comprehension. You close your eyes. When you open them, you are elsewhere. A medieval market square. Empty, dust-laden, stalls half collapsed, rotten fruit abandoned on wooden tables. The wind carries whisper snatches of old conversations, laughter long since ended. You turn and see yourself, younger, before the mask, before the blade, laughing, alive. Your breath catches. You call out, but no sound comes. The younger version fades, dissolving like smoke. Gone. You fall to your knees. The weight of loss of choices made, of paths walked crashes over you. A voice stirs. You can still choose. Historians still argue whether destiny is fixed or fluid, whether the medieval mind believed in preordained fate or the power of personal redemption. You rise. The market dissolves. The boat returns. The water darkens. Faces stir beneath the waves, pale, distant, mournful. Eyes you know, eyes of those you condemned. They do not accuse, they grieve. Tears blur your vision. The boat drifts, finally ashore. White stone, gold-lit sky. Silence, profound. You step off. The weight lifts, the mask is gone, the axe is gone. Only you remain. A door waits. Carved from bone and starlight. You step forward. The door opens, and you walk through. Historians still debate whether forgiveness is divine, human, or something older than both. Some say it is impossible. Others, necessary. You vanish into light. The sky burns orange as the day fades. You awaken slowly, every joint creaking, every breath sharp and shallow, your lungs feeling as if they're filled with stone dust. The ground beneath you is cold, uneven cobblestone. The air around you is thick, a bitter cocktail of smoke, iron, and something faintly sweet-throat. For a disoriented moment, you wonder if you've crossed into some other existence, some alternate timeline where this nightmare no longer rules you. But the sharp ache in your bones pulls you back. No, you are still here, still trapped, still you. The bell tolls. Always the bell. That relentless, mournful, sound low, distant, eternal. Like a memory you cannot silence. It vibrates through your chest, through your teeth, through the marrow of your bones. You shift your weight, groaning as you sit up. The weight of the axiance, so familiar, so crushing, has vanished. Your hands are empty, but they still remember. They twitch, they ache, they tremble. You stare at them as if they belong to a stranger, a man who no longer exists. You push to your feet. Each step feels heavier than the last as you move forward through what remains of the village, or what was once a village. Now it is ruin. The world is gray, smeared in ash. Windows gape open like broken mouths. Doors hang crooked, splintered, or missing entirely. The wind murmurs through the hollow buildings, carrying with it faint, ghostly whispers. Names you never learned, lives you ended, stories you silenced. Historians still argue whether medieval towns were ever truly abandoned overnight by plague, famine, or terror, whether such tales were exaggerated by frightened chroniclers desperate to explain away their own panic. Some claim entire communities vanished as if swallowed by the earth. Others suggest fear blurred reality, and people imagine silence where there had never been true absence. You pass the old well. Its stones are cracked, moss chokes its edges. You pass the silent marketplace. Empty carts, toppled barrels, broken crates, all still, all forgotten. A single figure waits at the crossroads, hooded, motionless, timeless. The shape of the cloak stirs slightly in the bitter wind, but the figure itself does not move. "You," the figure says, voice dry as autumn leaves. "Always you." You do not answer. Words feel alien, heavy in your throat. You blink as if expecting the figure to fade, but it does not. It stands rooted, immutable. The figure raises one gloved hand and gestures. Before you, the roads stretch again. 3 paths, as you've seen before. Fate, forgiveness, forgetting. But this time, there is a 4th. Freedom. The word shimmers, faint and unreal, barely clinging to existence in the twilight. You hesitate. Your heart kicks against your ribs. Breath shudders through you. And then you move. 1 step, then another. The ground beneath your feet hums faintly, the vibrations crawling up through your bones. Each footfall feels heavier than the last, but you press forward. With every step, something unravels. Memories, faces, names, sorrow. The weight of the axe slips from your mind. The suffocating mask of leather fades. Historians still debate whether freedom was ever truly attainable for those bound by the chains of duty, blood, or social expectation in medieval times. Could an executioner truly abandon his role and find peace? Could a sinner's stain ever be erased? Or were their paths carved so deeply into fate that no choice could alter them? You walk and walk until the roads vanish, until even the sky seems to unspool into endless darkness, until the world is nothing but sound and memory. And then the sea, it stretches before you, vast and endless. The air sharpens with salt. The horizon bleeds gold and crimson as the sun sinks, tearing the sky apart. The water laps softly at the sand, whispering. The bell tolls again, fainter now, almost distant memory. You step forward. With trembling fingers, you lay the axe down. The weight of it gone. Forever. You remove the mask. It slips from your fingers. The wind carries it away. The sea calls. The water glimmers like liquid glass. You step in. The cold bites, but you do not stop. You open your eyes to a soft, golden dawn. The nightmare seems to have loosened its grip, though the weight of what has passed still clings to your breath, your bones, your soul. The village aunts heavy with fear, death, and echoes of judgment now, lies silent beneath a sky painted in soft hues of pink and amber. Your footsteps feel lighter, though you're not quite sure if it's because the burden has lifted or because you've simply grown used to the weight. The axe is gone. The mask lies buried in the earth. Your hands empty now tremble, but not from fear. From something else? Release. The old cobblestone paths wind toward the distant sea, and for the first time in what feels like lifetimes, you choose to walk not toward duty, not toward death, but toward the horizon. Each step is soft, each breath deeper. The memories remain. They always will, but they no longer define you. Historians still debate whether those trapped in cycles of violence and power could ever truly escape. Some argue that the role of executioner was one written in blood and fate. Others suggest that perhaps, just perhaps, redemption was possible. You choose to believe in redemption. The wind carries the scent of salt and wildflowers. The sun glimmers on the waves. You reach the cliff's edge and sit. No gallows, no scaffold, just the endless dance of sea and sky. Time, finally, feels distant. The ghosts fade into the breeze. For a moment, you close your eyes. And so, our story gently winds down. Hey guys, if you're still with me half asleep or not, thank you for traveling back to this strange, unsettling chapter of history. Before you drift off completely, if you're watching this right now, drop a comment below with your city, your country, and what time it is where you are. The place with the most likes might inspire our next bedtime history journey. Who knows? Maybe your story will be the next one we explore together. For now, just breathe. Let the soft hum of the sea, the quiet whisper of wind, and the distant echoes of the past lull you deeper into rest. The past is gone, the night is yours, sweet dreams. But sometimes, even as you drift deeper into sleep, something inside resists the pull. A small flicker of consciousness, a tiny ember of thought, keeps the mind tethered to the edges of this strange historical dream. In that delicate space between waking and sleeping, you find yourself once again standing not fully, but almost in the village you thought you'd left behind. The colors are softer now, faded. The sharp edges of reality have blurred. The stone houses are crumbling, ivy thickens across broken roofs, and the once bustling square is empty, save for the whisper of the wind weaving through crooked doorways. Your feet move without thought. You wander slowly, the way one does in dreams, where time no longer seems to matter. The air is heavy with the scent of moss and wood smoke, distant and familiar all at once. Historians still debate how much of the past truly survives, whether memories passed through generations remain accurate or if the stories we tell shape history far more than the facts themselves. Some argue that even landscapes carry memory, that the soil itself remembers every footprint, every whispered word, every secret buried beneath centuries of silence. You pass the old execution square. The gallows are gone, but the earth where they once stood is darker, softer, as though the ground itself still holds the weight of what happened there. You turn down a familiar lane, the market, long abandoned. The stalls are empty shells, wooden beams splintered, fabric long since rotted away. Yet, if you close your eyes, you can almost hear it. Laughter, shouts, the clatter of horseshoes on stone. The life that once filled this place still echoes, faint but insistent, in the quiet. You keep walking. The village chapel appears next south, swallowed by vines. The bell tower leans at an impossible angle, and yet, if you strain your ears, you hear the faintest toll. A sound both real and not, a memory ringing softly through time. You reach an ancient oak, far older than the village itself. Its thick roots snake through the earth like sleeping giants. Draped from one low-hanging branch swings something familiar. Your old mask, the executioner's mask. Weather-worn, covered in moss, the eye holes dark and empty. You stand for a long time, gazing at it. The wind shifts, and the mask sways gently. But you don't reach for it. Not this time. You sit beneath the tree, resting your back against the gnarled trunk. The sky above shifts from purple to midnight blue. Stars prick the darkness one by one. A soft breeze stirs the leaves, and for the first time, the weight you've carried, the heaviness of duty, of guilt, of centuries, begins to lift. Historians still argue whether roles in history, especially roles soaked in blood and judgment, can ever be escaped, whether a person is forever bound to their past, or whether, in the quiet spaces between memory, redemption can take root. Here, in this twilight, you are neither executioner nor condemned. You are simply a breath, a heartbeat, a quiet presence beneath ancient branches. The wind hums softly, the stars glow, time slows, and somewhere, far away, the waves of the sea whisper their endless lullaby. Your eyes grow heavier. The earth cradles you gently. You exhale and release. And so, here you are, at the edge of sleep, at the quietest part of the night. The long, shadowy journey through the cold, harsh world of medieval life has slowly faded, like mist dissolving at sunrise. You can feel it now, can't you? The soft weight of your own breath, the gentle rhythm of your heartbeat, the way the air feels softer, warmer, calmer. The executioner's axe is long gone. The village, the cobblestone streets, the echo of ancient bell saw slipping further and further into the distance of your mind. The heavy images fade as your body sinks deeper into rest. You are no longer that weary figure burdened by duty, guilt, and endless shadows. You are just you here, breathing softly, drifting between worlds. Historians still wonder if places remember. They ask, do the stones carry echoes of footsteps from centuries ago? Do the fields whisper the names of those who walked before us? Some say yes, some say no. But here, in this moment, it doesn't matter. Because the only thing you need to remember is this: you are safe, you are free, you are home. If somehow you are still awake, your mind floating gently on the edge of dreams, maybe leave a small message before you drift off completely. In the comments, write the name of your city, your country, and the exact time it is right now. The place with the most beautiful or most liked comment might just inspire the next bedtime story we share. Imagine that, your hometown, your history, your story, told beneath the soft glow of stars. Breathe in, breathe out. The night is quiet now. The world is still. The wind hums softly in the distance. The sea glimmers under moonlight far, far away. The old village, the gallows, the long-forgotten executioner, all of it dissolves into stillness. You are weightless. You are drifting. You are safe. And so, at last, your eyelids grow heavy. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow. And the quiet of sleep welcomes you fully, gently, completely. The story has ended. The night belongs to you now. Sweet dreams, traveler. Sweet dreams.